Hello, and welcome to SaaS Marketing Insights, the show where we ask SaaS founders, CEOs, marketers, and investors about the lessons they've learned in their quest to grow their companies. My name is Paul Stevenson, and I'm founder and CEO of SaaS marketing agency 47 Insights. On today's show, I have an interview with Charles Palleschi, president at Spark Shipping. Hope you enjoy it. Charles Palleschi, president of Spark Shipping. Welcome to SaaS Marketing Insights.
Hey, how you doing today? Thanks for having me on.
Good. So you're over there in Boston. What's the weather like today? Is it warming up?
No, it's rainy and cold actually outside right now.
Oh dear. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, we've
rainiest month on record actually, I think right now. So
yeah, there seems to have been a lot of rain in the east. I know the east of Canada is suffering, sort of Quebec and Ottawa and places like that.
Yep.
We're nice and dry over here, and the sun's shining today, so it's a good thing. Spark Shipping doesn't sound like a SaaS business, but it is. Do you want to tell us what Spark Shipping is and how you got started?
Yeah, so what Spark Shipping is, it is a SaaS, contrary to the name, the word shipping in the name. And what we essentially do is work with e-commerce retailers, and we sit in between the retailers and their vendors. Vendors are manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers. We kind of use the term very generically, but it's any place products are physically stored or orders are sent from. So even a 3PL, third-party logistics company, like FBA is an example of that, owned by Amazon.
Yeah.
Even shipping software, things like that, we would consider a vendor. And we pretty much automate those connections in between. So things like order data, tracking data, it all comes back and forth from these different vendors. And what's very common in e-commerce now is you might have, quite possibly like your Shopify store, your Amazon store, your eBay store. And then all those orders are also going to multiple vendors on the other end. So you might have 3 different distributors, a manufacturer, and even your own internal little warehouse that you store some products. And when an order comes in, it could be routed to any one of those. Each one uses a different format. We automate all of those. So we're automatically able to send those orders in the correct format the vendor wants, pull tracking back, send it back up to where the order came from. That notifies the user, hey, your order shipped. So that's kind of what we do.
Wow. So you're solving quite a big problem for people because, I remember when e-commerce first started taking off in the late 90s, early 2000s in any significant way. And it was always such a pain if you had you wanted to do anything complicated. And so I sort of recognize the problem that you're solving there. I mean, does anyone not have that problem? I guess you're dealing with a lot of drop shippers and people like that.
Could be drop shippers, but also just if you're using a 3PL to ship your own products, for example. So you go and manufacture X and you want to send those products. Those have to come from a warehouse. You most likely don't own that warehouse. And unless by warehouse, you mean like your garage, it's going to be something like a 3PL is essentially an outsourced warehouse. They all use different method of receiving and sending data. So we're able to automate those connections as well. And kind of the neat thing that a lot of folks do is it's not just so. When you think of drop shipping, everyone kind of has that idea that it's just like, it is cut and dry thing. Like you're either a drop shipper or you're not.
Yeah.
But really kind of what's happening behind the scenes is everyone's just kind of like hybrid drop shipper. A lot of folks, some of the largest players, this is what everyone does. They might be they're essentially going to a manufacturer, purchasing large amounts of products, bringing them into their 3PL. When that inventory runs out, we then are able to then route those same orders for those same products to a manufacturer. When that runs out, we can route those same orders for those same products to a distributor. So there's different like tiers of where you want to route orders to, and that allows you to have products in stock much longer. So it creates this kind of hybrid, right, where it's almost is it drop shipping at that point? Like you could buy them and you have them sitting there. So there's all these like different models that folks use. And just over the years, as e-commerce has got more competitive, at one point you could just become a drop shipper. You go sign for a distributor, dump the products on a Shopify site, people would buy, and life was good.
Mm.
But now you have to be a little more clever than that. So you have to be able to work with multiple manufacturers and kind of have these like more complex setups to be able to still be profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the logistics of e-commerce are a bit of a nightmare, which is why I stick to SaaS. So
Yeah, it's also the boring stuff no one talks about, which is kind of
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I turned a lot of people are on the front end of e-commerce, right, and how to kind of get more orders, ramp up sales, that sort of thing. But a lot of it is like, okay, after you have the sales, how to profitably just go through, just move stuff through quicker. Because you once you're actually at scale, a lot gets bogged down there. So it's not about at some point it's not about just okay, let's get double amount of orders. Now it becomes let's get the orders we have today and just move them through faster so that we can get more orders. So they want to just bog down with where's the tracking data, where's the product, like what's going on internally.
so I think it's a problem that a lot of people would recognize in the e-commerce space. It's a very common problem. So what's the story about how you founded Spark Shipping and solved this problem for these folks?
Yeah, so it's quite a few years ago now. I was left a full-time job years and years ago. And I said I'm gonna go off do some consulting. So I was doing just freelance consulting, some in industry, some just kind of general, web development sort of stuff. And kind of along the way, I said, all right, consulting's good. I had nothing against it, but I said I want to own something. I actually wanted to be a SaaS, but couldn't really find something that made sense. So I just was kind of looking around and found a e-commerce site. I'm like, this looks interesting. Let's try this. So I went and purchased a small e-commerce site at the time and started just running that on the side of the consulting. And it started to get more orders, actually. Started to do okay and kind of ramp that up. But as I did, this whole problem started happening of, oh, wow, I'm spending a lot of time each day just sending emails and pulling in tracking data. And then I had some VAs that did it. But then if, there's a delay, like if they're sleeping or if anyone's sleeping, in drop shipping, for example, if there's 3 left in stock and you wait 12 hours after you got the order, you might now have 0 in stock. So now you're going back to Amazon and canceling orders, and that creates a whole nightmare. So you start having these like problems very quickly. And out of that, I said, okay, there has to be a better way. Started looking around, and there weren't very good tools for it. So I kind of just built this internal. I think at the time it was called like the automation thing, the automation engine. And that ran the business basically internally for a while. And then I started saying like, this is actually more interesting than like the other stuff I'm doing. Talked to some other retailers, started actually selling it, and said, oh, this is actually, kind of picking up. So at some point I wound down the consulting business, sold the e-commerce site, and focused on this full time. And that's been years now.
Right. So what, 4, 5, 6 years, something like that, or longer?
Somewhere around, I think since Sparkship was a full-time focus, probably about 4 years now.
Cool.
The consulting business around longer. And when the product initially like started, it wasn't this, I didn't go into it with, hey, starting Spark Shipping. I went into it and I'm automating this, my e-commerce site. So there was no like login or anything. It was just automation for that, and started just found kind of those issues and built it up. And at some point actually, made it so people could buy it, so type of thing.
So there's a huge irony there. So you're looking to buy a SaaS, you couldn't find a SaaS. You bought an e-commerce store instead, and then you found that there was this problem with that in the the logistics and the handling of all of the data. And so then you scratched your own itch, classically, built a solution, and then sold the solution as a SaaS.
Yeah, never thought of that, but yes, when you say it that way, it's kind of funny how it came full circle. Which I think a lot of people do is they want to start a SaaS, and they end up solving a problem, but only a problem that like they have. But it's not like it's like a very small business problem. And like at the time, I was an e-commerce retailer, so I was able to see like a whole different problem set that like normally SaaS people just don't see. When I go to a lot of conventions and I explain to people, and like on the like software founder side, go to a conference and kind of explain to people, and everyone goes, oh, is this a problem? Like, is this even a thing? And you're like, yeah, it's a huge thing in e-commerce, but like as a normal person, you don't know this. So it's one of those kind of little things of figuring out, to start a SaaS product, you almost need to get in a whole different business see those problems, and then it's pretty easy because there's not a lot of SaaS founders in e-commerce. So you're able to see a lot of interesting problems and go like, wow, we can make all these things better. And this just happens to be the one I kind of focused on.
Yeah, that is great, and I think it is. I've seen this time and time again that the people who really prosper at SaaS are people who come from a particular vertical or an industry and have domain knowledge of that, and they then develop a SaaS to solve a problem that they have, and they're not actually SaaS centric at all. And I think that's what you're explaining there, and all of the great opportunities that are left in SaaS are probably going to come from people in really weird industries that nobody technical SaaS founder hasn't been near yet, like I don't know, funeral services or trucking or something.
Yeah, and they happen to be kind of the more I don't know, boring is the right word, but just things that aren't the cool things, right? They're not the you're not using the latest like JavaScript library to build this. It's not this like developer focused thing. But it's a real business problem. And it turns out a lot of people in that vertical have this problem. But if you're not in that vertical, you actually just assume the problem is already solved. Quite honestly, like you just think, oh, like, how can that be a problem in 2019? And it turns out in these verticals, there's still a lot of problems in 2019 yet to be tapped into.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a ton of opportunity out there if you're in the right industries. So let's turn to the marketing side of things. So, you started Spark Shipping 4 or 5 years ago. You had you as a customer. How did you go about finding more customers?
I think at first, I mean, are we talking customer like, I guess I was customer 1. So are we talking customer 2 here or,
Yeah, customer 2.
Customer onwards. 2, I think initially it was probably just talking to kind of the internal network, just people I knew. At some point I kind of said, okay, I have to actually see if, is it because, at some point you can kind of get the first couple customers that way, but then you say, okay, is it just because they know and like me and like trust me? Like, how do I get someone I actually don't know? I think at first I literally the product was actually there and it was running, but I didn't even know exactly like how to describe it. I think I ended up throwing up a couple landing pages and just kind of described what I thought I was like seeing and kind of just drove people to those. They filled out a form if they wanted to talk. And I just got on the phone and said like, so you filled out that form, you wanted to know more about this thing. What do you think that thing is you want to know more about? Like, and I kind of knew what I had. But I was like, wait, why exactly did you just give me your information? And kind of just had to like talk to them of like, oh, I'm trying to do this thing. I'm like, and then, I mean, some people would just name something like completely left field and like, it's not what I was talking about. And then other people would actually be like, yeah, I have this thing. I need to automate these vendor connections. Like, yes, okay. And like, let's talk about that. And I would start to realize over time, okay, did they describe it like me or different or like what were the words we're using? But yeah, I think it was honestly just a form and I would just answer the email and let's get on a call and just like, why did you give me your information? And like, what did you think I was going to do for you? And then, and it kind of just grew out of that. And there were people that obviously a lot of people had complete, like people were almost making up their own products. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, but that's not what I do. Thanks. Yeah. And then just, there were a lot of people that were like, all right, I get it. I want that, let's do it. And then kind of just at that, I mean, for the first few, it was just very manual of like, let's sign people up. I think even a lot of the setup, it was technically a SaaS and I would just log into their account and just help them. I would basically do the setup for them. Just because, at first you don't have all those edge cases kind of polished off. And then over time you kind of get that all built up where you can actually have someone sign up on the site and, you're not manually taking a credit card over the phone and typing into Stripe. It becomes actually a credit card form. So, but that all took a little bit of time.
So with those first few customers, you took them to lead pages. How did you get them to go to the lead pages? Was it like SEO or did you run a paid campaign or was it just email outreach?
I think, the email outreach wasn't even, that was just people I knew. So that was literally just like, hi, let's get on the phone. So that wasn't even, we were below landing pages at that level. We're just on like a phone call. Then I think once I went to the landing page level, I think that was, Yeah, I think it was just cool. I think at the time it was just AdWords actually.
Mm.
I don't even think Facebook was probably a thing, but not really like,
Mm.
as big as it was today. Plus, Facebook is a more kind of complex marketing
Yeah,
beast.
beast,
AdWords,
good word, beast.
yeah, I don't know the right term. AdWords is easier, right? Because you're lower in the funnel, so you know their intent. So if someone's Googling for
Yeah.
commerce automation software, you're like, I know what you want. In Facebook, if you're like looking at cat pitches, you don't really know what they want. And you have to kind of put different offers in front of them. And at the time, I didn't really know what those offers were. So I
Mm.
was just saying, let's go way further down the funnel, find people already looking for something that does this, and then
Mm.
just talk to them about that thing they're looking for versus trying to really go high up the funnel initially.
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
one thing I learned: just start low down the funnel where people already have the intent and they're basically looking for a product to buy, and then just
Mm.
that product. Versus once you're more fleshed out, then you're talking like social, move up the funnel of people
Yeah.
don't actually have intent right now, but how do we, how do we get people from commenting on cat photos to actually going, oh, maybe I want to, automate my e-commerce site. That one takes a little more, you
Mm.
know, a little more finesse to get people moving in that direction versus searching for it in Google. They're kind of already there. They're in the mode. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like what you're saying. Um, so how has your marketing like changed over those 4 years? And what do you find kind of works best for you now? Because there's a ton of different channels and tactics and stuff that you could do, but you've got limited time and limited resource, as does everyone. What's working for you?
yeah, I mean, so we have kind of the unique thing, and kind of when you read what's the book Traction, many of those Gabriel, is it
Weisberg?
Gabriel Weinbeck? Yeah, Weisberg, that's it. Yeah, and they kind of have engineering as marketing. We're probably lucky in that where we're kind of like a very specific Zapier. We're connecting A with B, and we help the people on the A side and we help the people on the B side, right? So
Mm.
it we do well with the A's want us to work and the B's want us to work too. So we work with a lot of the partners on both sides, both the retail side and the vendor side. And we have quite a few of these pre-built integrations now. We have probably almost, even on the vendor side, almost 100 now.
Wow.
And each one of them, and we have a WYSIWYG out there where people have built like thousands of their own, like quirky, we were talking to someone the other day and they mentioned the customer and they built 450 vendor integrations on their own. Like, oh, I mean, I don't know who all these vendors are. And like, you just look down and they just have hundreds of these. Because all in a vendor, I mean, it could be a large distributor, like a traded on, a Fortune 500, but it could also be like the dude in the garage is a vendor as well. So they
Mm.
might have hundreds of these. So kind of on the marketing side, we built a lot of these and then we work with a lot of these either vendors or retail side, because it helps these people, helps the
Yeah.
retail side attract more users and helps the vendor side get more retailers on board. So we kind of have the benefit of we kind of help everyone in every direction. So they kind of want to see us win as well, which is nice. And that's kind of been one of the big things that's helped.
So it's really just word of mouth, and the fact that you have good relationships with so many people.
Yeah, a lot of good relationships, I'd say, is kind of word of mouth. I don't know many e-commerce retailers. They don't talk directly to each other. They more talk to others. It's more of this, it's not, I think there's some industries where the customers talk to one another, but then there's other ones where the customers only talk up to a
Yeah.
vendor. If
Yeah.
you work with a vendor, many customers talk to them. So that's
Yeah.
kind of more in the e-commerce model.
Yeah.
It turns out some industries is different. So word of mouth doesn't spread. Like you basically, so for example, you always see those things where somebody puts something on their site, and hey, we use Spark shipping. It doesn't really work in e-commerce because e-commerce retailers don't look at one another.
No.
They look at other, they might
Yeah.
talk to Shopify, they might talk to the distributor. So that's who we talk to.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds great. So your category, I think you called it commerce automation software. Is that right?
E-commerce automation. Yep.
Okay. So in your category, what does the competition look like? You don't have to name names, but I'm thinking, if you found this problem just a few years ago, really, and solved it for yourself, some other people must have had sort of parallel journeys and solved the problem in different or similar ways. And I wonder how you find competition to be.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of trying to think the best way of explaining this. So there's folks that are kind of alongside of you, right? And that we can do a lot of partnerships with, which is nice. So you're not direct competition. So for instance, like shipping software, we don't actually compete with them. We work with them very often. So there's folks like that on the surface, they almost sound like competition. And then kind of once you dig in, they're actually more of, we work better together than competing. We can't replace them. They can't replace us. So we see that very often. Then there are direct competitors, but a lot of times, and I kind of didn't see this initially, but everyone kind of runs in their own like vertical on size of customer. And the market tends to get split like that. So there's people who do much better with entry level customers. Like if you just signed up, if you just created a new, Shopify BigCommerce store yesterday, there are automation services out there that they work great. And they're just made for working with new retailers. Then there's folks out there that, if you're a Fortune 500 and you're getting, 100,000 orders a day, they do some very custom integrations and that sort of thing. We're somewhere in the middle, right? Where it's not, we're not made for the retailers that started working yesterday, but also if you're, Walmart, that's kind of a different model and they usually bring in consultants in-house. So we're probably more in that middle tier. And I've kind of found over time, competition finds these like horizontal tiers of type of customers.
Comes stratified, I think is the word.
Yeah, I guess stratified is, yeah, exactly. Where, we just know we're the right fit for certain customers. And if some people are just not the right fit, and we're happy to kind of tell them that. And that's kind of been one of the things of just realizing, not everyone's a customer. And when someone's not, it's better for us and for them. It's better for everyone just to kind of say, hey, maybe this isn't the right fit. Just because if you put someone on the product that's not the right fit, they're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. It's a burden to support. The churn is obviously way higher. So it's just bad for everyone. Bad user experience. So it's better off just kind of knowing, here's the type, here's people we do the best with. And then let's just talk to those folks.
Yeah. So on your website, you do have pricing as well. And I can't remember what it starts at. Was it $200-$300 a month, something like that? So I think that would indicate to people who just got started on Shopify that you probably weren't for them. I was wondering if there were any other things that you deliberately put on your website to help dequalify people who might be looking, who aren't a great fit for you.
Yeah, it's funny. Over time, the prices have changed over time. The original prices were much lower, and over time, it's kind of moved up. I think it's $249 is the entry level plan right now. I think there's even some stuff in the sign up that basically says if you get under X number of orders per month, you might not be the right fit. So, and a lot of times, most folks, once you're at that price point, aren't just doing like a one-click self sign up. Like 90+%, it's a phone call. It's kind of a conversation. So it's not so. So we're able to kind of qualify folks over the phone and verbally kind of agree, is this the right fit? And it's usually one of those things.
Is it because there's that, they've got a particular problem that they don't see a solution for on the website, but they think that you might be able to solve it for them, or some weird integration that only they have, or just questions?
It's more of, think of if you were, the best way to explain it, coming a SaaS audience, if you're using Stripe right now and you found a new payment processor that looked great and had these other features, you said, I don't know, should I just, you can't just take your Stripe and just switch it. It's too big of a thing. You're not just going to go let's try it. And just Monday morning, let's do it. You're going to talk. So it's if you're new and you have, zero revenue come in, you might actually do that. But once you're in, if this is what you're doing to feed your family and this is what you do, you're going to say, let's have at least a phone call first to make sure we're all on the same page here and this is actually going to work. So it's not, we're taking over a critical part of their business. We're sitting in between their whole distribution chain. So totally get it. You probably want a phone call first if that's important to you. Because if this is, if you feed your family and have employees and you're all kind of going off this, you want to make sure before you even sign up, before you even begin the conversation, is this the right fit? Can these folks do what I'm looking to do? So I think depending on the type of where you are, right? And if you're working with small retailers, totally different. Price point's different. You don't have order flow yet. You can just sign up, try it. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. If not, cool, go to the next thing.
Yeah.
We're kind of going after a different market where if it, you need to know it's going. There's no like gray area. You need to know it's going to work. Especially if you're have orders and you're doing a cutover. You want to talk ahead of time.
Yeah. So I guess from your customer's point of view, there's quite a bit of risk involved, and that must create like a high barrier to switching for you. What do you do to placate or to persuade them that they that you have a better solution, and how do you transition, or how do they transition from their old solution to yours? Because I don't imagine you can run both.
So we've actually found ways you can run both for like a sliver. And so you usually start by, not doing the big bang Monday morning. Let's just flip on we're going this way. Let's just flip the switch. Usually start with saying, let's run maybe we're going to add, usually how it starts the conversation is the businesses have something going today. They're running orders. They have some way of getting into a vendor. They want to add another vendor on. And they basically look at the API or they look at whatever and realize this is a lot of we don't have a way to do this. Either we could hire a developer and it could take 6 months and then we have to basically own the code, or we have to they start running through all these different things. And that's usually where then they find us and say, oh, you guys can do this, and have it done in, days and weeks versus, months and maybe never, I guess, somewhere between months and never. So that's usually the conversation starts. And when you're adding that on, then it's usually more of saying, okay, we can just slice off a small bit of the order flow, move that, try it, see if it works. Great. Now let's add more. Go to the next one. So we kind of do this divide and conquer, where we move a little over at a time, run it through, everyone feels comfortable, we turn more on. And they kind of work with the team here and that's kind of it too, where it's a little higher of a price point. So you kind of have a little more one-on-one of let's work with the team here and come up with an actual plan of saying let's move this over. Okay, we all feel comfortable. Now let's make, a bigger push. Now let's move. And then at some point you're fully on. So we kind of monitor that as well.
So you started out, I think I'm right in saying, as a software engineer, as a lot of SaaS founders do. And then when you did consulting, I think, you were doing some aspects of marketing as part of that consulting, like SEO and stuff like that, I'd imagine. So, how was it that when you started this, how comfortable did you feel about marketing as opposed to, say, coding?
I would say e-commerce, as a SaaS founder, if you want to learn about marketing, e-commerce is actually a pretty good way to learn about it. Getting someone to put in a credit card for something reoccurring turns out to be actually kind of a difficult sell. Oddly, people actually run through a consulting engagement much easier than they'll sign up for a $100 a month SaaS product. It's this odd thing. It's this odd thing. But then even easier, people will just go and buy a shirt online or a hat that. People will do. They'll just spend $50 without even remotely thinking about it. So in e-commerce, you're able to try a lot more just because the bar to acquire a customer is just so much lower. So you can really it's almost like this test ground of you can just try things and, oh, that works. Let's do more of it. Whereas in e-commerce, the whole acquisition cost is higher. Everything's just, SaaS rather. Yeah. Everything's a higher bar, longer road. So when you run an experiment, you might not know for weeks or months whether it succeeded. Versus e-commerce, you can run a promotion, and in the matter of hours, it either worked or it didn't, and then you can just kill it and move to the next one or go more, increase it rather. So that kind of gives a nice. So I guess if you want to get into SaaS marketing, try e-commerce marketing first, just because you can test a lot more and you can try a lot more faster. And then SaaS is kind of just another level of complexity.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I've done quite a bit of e-commerce, digital marketing in the past, and the bit that I struggle with, and I guess a lot of businesses are struggling with now, e-commerce businesses, is the acquisition channels, the acquisition cost is just going up and up. If you look at what you used to be able to get on Facebook, and what it costs you now, it's crazy. And yet, margins aren't going up. At least with SaaS, you've got customer lifetime value. You've got at least the cost of acquisition can be usually substantial. But with e-commerce, if it's a one-off thing, you've not got a lot of money to play with usually.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the whole automation side is one of those things where there's certain things you can't change. If you're working with a distributor, you can only get the prices so low, like UPS isn't going to put their prices, like everything. There's certain things that the margin is just, there's certain costs that are there. But that whole back end automation, that's kind of the piece people forget about, of like, we actually have control of that. And we can just, if we automate that, we can we can just reduce costs. So that's like this one sneaky way of getting more margin that you don't see. And then you can, go ramp up the top of the funnel a bit more because you have that margin. And that's just something you don't initially see coming into it. And then over time you realize that is a lever to pull.
Yeah. So, efficiency is everything, and that's what you provide for your customers. You just make them more profitable and more efficient, right?
Yeah, I mean, efficiency, right? If you kind of up that, it's one of those kind of same thing in SaaS, right? Lowering churn is always a good thing. In e-commerce, increasing efficiency, always a good thing. It's always going to help your margin. So, and it helps your customers too, because it's much better if you put in an order on a Saturday at 9 p.m. If you're trying to manually send these all out, it's a lot better if they just go out and then you're the first in line when, the warehouse comes in Monday morning. Same thing with tracking. If it comes back in the middle of the night, just do it or whatever. Pulling it as quick as possible reduces customer support and people emailing you saying, hey, where's my tracking number? So the faster you get the stuff back to the end user, the better off it is for everyone.
Yeah. Charles, thank you very much for your time today. It's really insightful, actually. You got my mind running with a whole load of things about e-commerce versus SaaS, which I haven't thought about for a while. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's great chatting with you.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Charles. For more info on Spark Shipping, please visit sparkshipping.com. For more info about this show and to get our links to iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher and YouTube, check out www.47insights.com. And if you have any SaaS marketing insights that you'd like to share on the show, please get in touch. Until next time.